Commander Zektar stared at the glowing screen in front of him. The bridge of his ship was dark except for the blue lights from the control panels. His 4 eyes focused on the weak signal coming from the third planet in the Sol system. The signal was simple and repeating, like a cry for help. "Commander, should we respond to this transmission?" asked his second officer, Vixenal. The tall alien's skin had a green tint that showed he was nervous. Zektar made a sound that was like a laugh, but sharper. "It's just another noise from those primitive humans. They barely know how to leave their own planet. What could they possibly want from the Empire?" The Galactic Shattered Empire had ruled most of the galaxy for over 3,000 years. It was made up of dozens of alien species, all working together under the Empire's control. Some joined willingly. Others were forced to join after their planets were conquered. The Empire was powerful, and everyone knew it. Humans were new to the galaxy. The Empire had discovered them only 50 years ago. They lived on a small blue planet they called Earth, in a system they called Sol. The Empire's scientists said humans were still very primitive. They had only just learned how to travel between planets in their own system. They had no real weapons, no strong ships, and no knowledge of the greater galaxy. "Sir, the signal is getting stronger," Vixenal reported. His voice had worry in it. Zektar looked at the screen again. The human signal was indeed getting more powerful. But then something strange happened. The signal suddenly stopped. Complete silence came from the human planet. "That's odd," Zektar said. He pressed some buttons on his control panel. "Scan the Sol system, full power." The ship's sensors reached out across space. What they found made everyone on the bridge stop what they were doing. Where Earth should have been, there was nothing. The planet was gone. "Commander!" Vixenal's voice was high with fear. "The human planet, it's not there." Zektar stood up from his command chair. His tall body moved quickly to the sensor station. "That's impossible. Planets don't just disappear." The sensor officer, a small alien with 6 arms, was working frantically at his controls. "Sir, I'm detecting a hyperspace signature. Something very large jumped away from the Sol system approximately 10 minutes ago." Hyperspace was how ships traveled faster than light across the galaxy. But humans weren't supposed to know about hyperspace. The Empire's reports said they were centuries away from that kind of technology. "Show me the trail," Zektar ordered. A 3-dimensional map appeared above the main screen. A bright line showed the path something had taken through hyperspace. The trail led away from Sol system and headed toward the edge of the galaxy where few ships ever went. "Commander," Vixenal said quietly, "what if someone stole their planet? There are stories of ancient weapons that could move entire worlds." Zektar thought about this. There were indeed legends of old technologies that could do amazing things. Some said the builders of these weapons had disappeared long ago, leaving only ruins and mysteries behind. "Or," said the sensor officer, "what if the humans were not as primitive as we thought?" This idea made everyone on the bridge uncomfortable. The Empire's power came from knowing that they were the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. If humans had technology the Empire didn't know about, it could change everything. "Send a message to Imperial Command," Zektar ordered. "Tell them about the situation. Request permission to follow the hyperspace trail." "Sir," Vixenal said, "shouldn't we wait for more ships? If there's an unknown threat out there—" Zektar interrupted him. "We have 3 destroyers in our group. That's enough firepower to handle anything those primitive humans might have. Besides, this could be the discovery of a lifetime. Ancient technology, lost weapons, maybe even contact with a civilization we've never encountered." The message was sent to Imperial Command. While they waited for a reply, Zektar studied the hyperspace trail. It was unlike anything he had seen before. Most hyperspace jumps left a trail that faded quickly. This one was strong and clear, as if whatever made it wanted to be followed. Commander, the communications officer called out. Message from Imperial Command. They're confused about our report. They say it's impossible for an entire planet to disappear. They want us to investigate further before they send additional ships. Zektar smiled. Imperial Command thought he was making a mistake. They didn't believe what his sensors were telling him. This was his chance to prove himself and maybe get promoted to Admiral. Prepare the ships for hyperspace jump, he ordered. We're following that trail. Sir, Vixnal said again, I really think we should wait for backup. Noted, Zektar replied. But his mind was made up. He could see himself presenting a great discovery to the Empire. Maybe he would find new weapons, or a lost civilization, or proof that the humans had help from someone else. Any of these things would make him famous. The 3 Imperial destroyers prepared for the jump. Each ship was about half a mile long, and carried enough weapons to destroy a small moon. They had shields that could stop most attacks, and sensors that could detect ships from very far away. Zektar was confident that whatever they found, they could handle it. All ships report. Ready for hyperspace, the navigation officer announced. Begin the jump, Zektar commanded. Space around the 3 ships began to twist and bend. The stars stretched into long lines of light, and then everything went dark. They were in hyperspace, following the trail left by whatever had taken Earth. The journey took several hours. During this time, Zektar studied everything his computers knew about humans. The reports all said the same thing. Humans were weak, had no advanced technology, and posed no threat to the Empire. They were barely worth paying attention to. But as the ships traveled through hyperspace, Zektar began to have doubts. The trail they were following was too perfect, too easy to follow. It was as if someone wanted them to find where it led. Commander, the navigation officer called out, we're approaching the end of the hyperspace trail, preparing to drop back into normal space. All ships, battle stations, Zektar ordered. We don't know what we're going to find. The lights on the bridge turned red. All around the ship, crew members prepared the weapons and shields. If there was going to be a fight, they would be ready. Dropping out of hyperspace in 3, 2, 1. The stars appeared again, but they looked different here at the edge of the galaxy. There were fewer of them, and they seemed dimmer. The 3 Imperial ships found themselves in what appeared to be empty space. Sensors, full scan, Zektar ordered. Sir, I'm not detecting anything. No ships, no planets, no artificial structures, just empty space. Zektar frowned. Had they followed the trail for nothing? But then he remembered something his old teacher had told him. Sometimes the most dangerous things were the ones you couldn't see. Increase sensor power. Scan for anything unusual. Energy signatures, gravitational anomalies, anything that doesn't belong in empty space. The sensors worked harder, reaching out into the darkness. For several minutes, there was nothing. Then, slowly, something began to appear on the screens. It was huge, much larger than anything the Empire had ever built. And it was right in front of them, hidden by technology they couldn't understand. Zektar realized he had made a terrible mistake. The massive structure slowly became visible on the sensors, like a ghost becoming solid. Zektar had never seen anything like it. The thing was at least 20 miles long and 10 miles wide. It looked like a combination of a space station and a shipyard with dozens of dock arms reaching out into space. By the ancient gods, whispered Vixenal. What is that thing? Zektar tried to stay calm, but his hearts were beating fast. Unknown structure. This is Commander Zektar of the Imperial Survey Fleet. Identify yourself immediately. No answer came. The massive structure just floated there in space, dark and silent. Sir, the sensor officer reported, I'm detecting energy readings from inside that structure. Big ones. And, Commander, there are ships inside it. Lots of ships. What kind of ships? Zektar asked. Unknown design. They're larger than our destroyers, but I can't get clear readings through whatever is blocking our sensors. Zektar made a decision. Take us closer, but keep shields up and weapons ready. The three Imperial destroyers moved slowly toward the giant structure. As they got closer, more details became visible. The surface was covered with strange markings and symbols that none of them recognized. There were openings that looked like hangar bays and tower-like structures that might be weapons. Commander, the communications officer called out, I'm picking up some kind of transmission from the structure. It's very weak, like they're trying to hide it. Put it on speakers. A scratchy voice came through the ship's speakers. It was, speaking in a language none of them had heard before, but their computers quickly translated it. Forge Station Alpha to Terran Command. 3 Imperial destroyers have found us. They're approaching slowly. Should we activate the trap? Terran. That was another word for human. Zektar felt a cold feeling in his stomach. Another voice answered. Negative, Station Alpha. Let them get closer. We want all 3 ships. The transmission cut off. Zektar realized they had been listening to human voices, but that was impossible. Humans didn't have technology like this. They couldn't build something this big. They couldn't even build proper spaceships. Commander, Vixnal said urgently, we should leave. This doesn't feel right. But Zektar was too proud to run away. No, we're Imperial destroyers. We can handle whatever these humans think they're doing. As they got closer to the structure, something strange began to happen. The space around their ships started to shimmer, like heat waves on a hot day. Sir, the navigation officer shouted, something's wrong with our engines. I can't control the ship. All 3 Imperial destroyers suddenly stopped moving forward. But they didn't stop moving toward the structure. Instead, they began moving, sideways as if something was pulling them. We're caught in some kind of tractor beam, the engineering officer reported. I've never seen anything like it. The power levels are off the charts. Zektar grabbed his command chair as the ship shook. All weapons, fire at that structure. Break us free. The 3 destroyers fired their main guns. Bright energy beams shot out toward the massive structure, but the beams hit some kind of shield and scattered harmlessly into space. No effect, sir, the weapons officer reported. Their shields are too strong. The tractor beam pulled the 3 ships closer and closer to the structure. Zektar could see now that what he had thought were hangar bays were actually huge openings, designed to swallow ships whole. Unknown structure, release us immediately, Zektar broadcast. We are ships of the Galactic Shattered Empire. Attacking us is an act of war. This time there was an answer, but it didn't come from the structure. It came from behind them. Imperial vessels, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the Terran Deep Space Fleet ship Leviathan. You are now prisoners of the Terran Commonwealth. Prepare to be boarded. Zektar spun around to look at the rear-view screen. His blood turned to ice. 3 ships had appeared behind them, and they were definitely not Imperial ships. They were sleek and dark, with sharp angles and weapon ports that glowed with energy. Each one was larger than his destroyers. Where did they come from? Vixnal gasped. They must have been cloaked, the sensor officer said, but our sensors should have detected them anyway. Their stealth technology is beyond anything we have. The voice spoke again. Commander Zektar, you have 30 seconds to shut down your weapons and shields. If you do not comply, we will disable your ships by force. Zektar looked around his bridge. His crew was staring at him, waiting for orders. He had 3 choices: fight and probably die, surrender, or try to run. Sir, Vixnal said quietly, their ships are bigger than ours. Their technology is clearly superior, and we're already trapped. Maybe we should listen to them. Zektar's pride fought with his common sense. He was an Imperial commander. He didn't surrender to primitive humans. But these humans were clearly not primitive. 15 seconds, Commander, the human voice said. "Commander," the weapons officer called out. "Their ships are charging weapons. Energy readings are—" "By the gods, sir. Each of their ships has more firepower than all three of ours combined." Zektar closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, he had made his decision. "All ships, power down weapons and shields," he ordered. "Sir?" Vixnall asked in surprise. "You heard me. Power down." The bridge became quieter as the weapon systems shut down. On the screen, they could see the human ships moving closer. The massive structure was also closer now, and they could see that it really was as big as a small moon. "Thank you for your cooperation, Commander," the human voice said. "You will be brought aboard Forge Station Alpha for questioning. Do not attempt to resist, and no harm will come to you or your crews." "This is impossible," Zektar muttered. "Humans don't have this kind of technology. They can't build ships like this." But even as he said it, he could see the proof in front of him. The humans not only had advanced technology, they had technology that was better than the Empire's. Much better. The tractor beam pulled their ships into the massive structure. As they entered the hangar bay, Zektar could see other ships inside. Human ships. And they were all military vessels built for war. "How many ships do they have in there?" Vixnall asked in a whisper. The sensor officer was staring at his screen, in shock. "I count at least 50 ships, sir, and some of them they're huge. That one there is the size of a battleship." As their destroyer settled onto a landing platform inside the structure, Zektar could see human soldiers waiting for them. They were wearing advanced armor and carrying weapons that looked far more sophisticated than anything the Empire used. "Commander," one of his officers said, "what do we tell Imperial Command when they ask what happened to us?" Zektar watched as human soldiers surrounded his ship. "If we survive this, we tell them the truth. The humans have been lying to us. They're not primitive. They never were." A new voice came over the communication system. "Imperial crew members, you will exit your ships one at a time, with your hands visible. You will be treated according to the rules of war, but any attempt to resist will be met with force." As Zektar prepared to leave his ship and face his captors, one thought kept running through his mind. If the humans had been hiding technology like this, what else had they been hiding? And more importantly, what did they plan to do with it? The hangar bay doors began to close behind them, cutting off their view of the stars. They were prisoners now, inside a human structure that shouldn't have existed, surrounded by human ships that were supposed to be impossible. Everything the Empire thought it knew about humans was wrong. Zektar stepped off his ship and looked around the hangar bay. It was enormous, bigger than most space stations he had seen. The walls were made of some kind of metal that seemed to absorb light, making everything look dark and threatening. Human. Soldiers in black armor stood at attention around the landing area, their weapons ready but not pointed directly at the prisoners. "This way, Commander," said one of the humans. The voice came from inside a helmet that covered the soldier's entire head. "Captain Chen is waiting to speak with you." Zektar and his officers were led through corridors that were wider and taller than anything on Imperial ships. The humans had built this place for comfort, not just function. Along the walls, Zektar could see windows that looked out into space. Through them, he could see more human ships moving around the structure. "How many ships do you have here?" Zektar asked the guard. "You'll have to ask the captain," the human replied. They entered an elevator that moved so smoothly, Zektar couldn't feel it working. When the doors opened, they were in what looked like an observation deck. The room had a curved wall made entirely of transparent material, giving a perfect view of space around the station. And what Zektar saw through that wall made his blood run cold. Ships, hundreds of them, human ships of all sizes, from small fighters to massive vessels that looked like they could destroy planets. They moved in perfect formation around the station, like a swarm of deadly insects. "Impressive, isn't it?" said a voice behind him. Zektar turned around to see a human woman walking toward them. She was tall for a human, with short brown hair and sharp eyes that seemed to see everything. She wore a dark blue uniform with symbols. that Zektar didn't recognize. "I am Captain Sarah Chen of the Terran Deep Space Fleet," she said. "Welcome to Forge Station Alpha." "This is impossible," Zektar said. "Humans don't have technology like this. Our reports said you were barely capable of interplanetary travel." Captain Chen smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. "Your reports were wrong, Commander. Very wrong." She walked to the window and looked out at the fleet of ships. "Tell me, what do you know about human history?" "I know what the Empire's files say. You're a young species. Only recently discovered space travel. No military power worth mentioning." "The Empire's files," Chen repeated. "Let me tell you what really happened, Commander. When your people first found Earth 50 years ago, we had already been traveling between the stars for over 200 years. Zektar stared at her. "That's impossible." "Is it? Your first contact team found us because we let them find us. We wanted to know what kind of civilization we were dealing with. So we played the part of primitive natives while we studied you." Chen pressed a button on the wall, and the window became a screen showing images and information. Zektar could see pictures of human ships, but they looked different from the ones outside. Older, smaller. "We've been watching your empire for decades, Commander. We've seen how you treat species you consider inferior. We've watched you destroy civilizations that couldn't defend themselves. We've seen what happens to planets that resist your expansion." The images on the screen changed, showing destroyed worlds and conquered peoples. Zektar recognized some of them. They were victories the Empire was proud of. "So we made a decision," Chen continued. "We would make sure that when the Empire decided to deal with humanity, we would be ready." "But how?" Vixnall asked. "How? Did you build all this without us knowing?" Chen turned to look at him. "That's a good question. The answer is simple. We're very good at hiding things, and we're very good at learning from our enemies." She pressed another button, and the screen showed technical drawings of Imperial ships. But these drawings were incredibly detailed, showing things that should have been classified secrets. "We've been studying your technology for decades. Every ship that passes through human space, every trade mission, every diplomatic contact. We learn a little more each time." Zektar felt sick. "You've been spying on us. We've been preparing. There's a difference." Chen walked closer to him. "Did you really think we would just sit back and wait for you to decide our fate? Did you think we would trust our survival to the mercy of an empire that has no mercy?" The screen changed again, showing more images. This time they were pictures of the construction of the station they were standing in. Zektar could see it being built piece by piece, in the darkness between stars where no Imperial ship would ever look. "Forge Station Alpha is one of 12 such stations," Chen said casually. "We've been building them for 30 years using resources from asteroids and uninhabited worlds that your people never bothered to claim." 12? Zektar whispered. 12 stations, each one capable of building and maintaining a fleet. Each one hidden in the dark spaces between your patrol routes. Chen's voice was calm, but Zektar could hear the steel underneath it. "We've been very busy while you thought we were playing with simple rockets." She walked back to the window and looked out at the fleet. "Do you want to know the most interesting thing we learned about your empire, Commander?" Zektar didn't answer, but Chen continued anyway. "We learned that you're not as strong as you think you are. Your ships are powerful, yes, but they're built using old designs, old ideas. You've become comfortable with your power. You've stopped innovating, stopped improving." The screen showed comparisons between Imperial and human technology. The numbers made Zektar's head spin. The human ships were faster, stronger, and more advanced in every way. "We, on the other hand, have been building our entire civilization around one goal: survival. Every ship, every weapon, every piece of technology we've created has been designed to fight a war against an enemy that outnumbers us 1,000 to 1. Chen turned back to face the prisoners. And now, that war is about to begin. What do you mean? Zektar asked, though he was afraid he already knew the answer. I mean, Commander, that your empire has finally decided to pacify the Sol system. 3 Imperial fleets are currently on their way to Earth, planning to destroy our primitive civilization and take our planet for the Empire. Zektar's blood turned to ice. He had heard rumors about such a mission, but he hadn't believed they were real. But here's the thing, Chen continued. Earth isn't where they think it is anymore. What? Vixenal gasped. Chen smiled again, and this time it was definitely not friendly. Earth is safe, hidden in a place your fleets will never find it. And when those fleets arrive at the Sol system expecting to find helpless humans, they're going to find something very different. The screen changed one more time, showing real-time images from the Sol system. Zektar could see Imperial ships approaching Earth's orbital position, but instead of finding a defenseless planet, they were flying into a trap. Human ships, hundreds of them, were waiting in the darkness. As Zektar watched, they began to move, surrounding the Imperial fleets like hunters closing in on prey. Your war fleets are about to discover what happens when you underestimate humanity, Chen said. And that's just the beginning. She pressed another button, and alarms began sounding throughout the station. Red lights flashed, and Zektar could hear the sound of ships launching from the hangar bays. You see, Commander, while your people were busy dismissing us as primitives, we were planning something your empire has never faced before. We're not just going to defend ourselves, we're going to end your empire's reign of terror once and for all. Zektar looked out the window and saw the massive human fleet beginning to move. Ships that could destroy worlds were heading out into the galaxy, carrying weapons and technology that the Empire had never seen. This is madness, he whispered. You can't fight the entire Empire. Captain Chen looked at him with eyes that held no doubt, no fear, only determination. Watch us. Captain Chen led the prisoners to another room filled with screens and control panels. Human officers were working at stations, talking quickly into communication devices and watching displays that showed star maps across the galaxy. This is our command center, Chen explained. From here, we coordinate operations across 100 different systems. Zektar stared at the screens. Each one showed a different part of the galaxy, and many of them showed Imperial ships and bases. But there were also other symbols on the maps, symbols he didn't recognize. Those are human ships, Chen said, noticing where he was looking. Right now, there are human strike forces positioned near every major Imperial base, shipyard, and command center in the galaxy. That's impossible, Vixnal whispered. You'd need thousands of ships, and we would have detected them. Would you? Chen walked to one of the control stations. Show them the stealth demonstration. An officer pressed some buttons, and one of the large screens showed a view of space near an Imperial base. The space looked empty, but then something happened. Dozens of ships suddenly appeared, as if they had been invisible. Stealth technology, Chen explained. Another thing we developed while you thought we were playing with primitive rockets. Our ships can hide from your sensors completely. The officer spoke up. Captain, all strike forces report ready for Operation Homecoming. Thank you, Lieutenant. Chen turned back to the prisoners. Operation Homecoming. That's what we call our plan to end the Empire's control of the galaxy. She pressed another button, and a new display appeared. This one showed the entire galaxy, with thousands of symbols representing ships and bases. For 50 years, we've been preparing for this moment. We've studied your military, your technology, your tactics. We've identified every weakness in your defenses. Zektar could see red symbols representing Imperial forces and blue symbols representing human forces. There were far more blue symbols than red ones. But it's not just about military power, Chen continued. We've also been talking to the other species in the galaxy. The ones your empire has conquered, enslaved, or threatened. The display changed, showing communication links between human forces and other worlds. Zektar recognized some of the planet names. They were worlds that the Empire controlled, but where the local populations were not happy about it. Many species have been waiting for someone strong enough to challenge the Empire, Chen said. They've been waiting for hope. Today we're giving them that hope. An alarm sounded, and one of the officers called out, Captain, Imperial fleets have reached the Sol system. They're finding exactly what we wanted them to find. Chen smiled. Put it on the main screen. The large display showed the Sol system where Earth used to be. 3 Imperial fleets, each one containing dozens of massive warships, had arrived expecting to find a defenseless human planet. Instead, they found empty space and a single message beacon. Play the message, Chen ordered. A voice filled the command center. It was speaking in Galactic Standard, but Zektar could tell it was a human voice. Imperial fleets, this is Admiral Marcus Torres of the Terran Commonwealth. If you are hearing this message, it means you have come to Sol system expecting to destroy our homeworld. You will find that Earth is no longer here. It has been moved to a safe location where your weapons cannot reach it. Zektar felt a chill run down his spine. Moving an entire planet was technology beyond anything the Empire had ever imagined. The message continued. However, your presence here is not unwelcome. It saves us the trouble of hunting you down. You are now surrounded. On the screen, they could see human ships appearing around the Imperial fleets. They came out of nowhere, as if space itself was giving birth to warships. In seconds, the 3 Imperial fleets found themselves outnumbered and outgunned. This is Admiral Torres to all Imperial ships. You have 30 seconds to surrender, or we will destroy you. Zektar watched in horror as the Imperial commanders tried to fight back. The Empire's ships were powerful, but the human ships moved like dancers, avoiding the Imperial weapons while firing back with incredible accuracy. The battle was over in minutes. Excellent, Chen said calmly. That takes care of the Sol system. Fleets. Now for the rest of the operation. She turned to address the room. All stations. Begin Operation Homecoming. Execute all strike plans simultaneously. The command center became a storm of activity. Officers were shouting coordinates, confirming attack plans, and monitoring dozens of battles happening across the galaxy at the same time. What are you doing? Zektar asked, though he was afraid he already knew. We're dismantling your empire, Chen replied simply. Right now, human strike forces are attacking Imperial bases in 100 different systems. Your shipyards are being destroyed, your command centers are being captured, and your fleets are being neutralized. The screens around the room showed battles happening across the galaxy. Human ships were appearing at Imperial bases and defeating the defenders before they could call for help. But that's not all, Chen continued. At the same time, we're broadcasting a message to every world in the galaxy. Every species that has been under Imperial control is hearing the same message. She pressed a button, and they could hear a recording playing. People of the galaxy, this is Admiral Torres of the Terran Commonwealth. Today marks the end of the Galactic Shattered Empire's reign of terror. For too long, this empire has conquered, enslaved, and destroyed civilizations across the stars. Today, that ends. The message continued. The Terran Commonwealth offers every species in the galaxy a choice. Join us as equals in a new galactic government based on cooperation, not conquest. Remain independent under our protection from those who would harm you. Or, if you choose to continue the Empire's ways of aggression and oppression, face the consequences. Zektar sank into a chair. Everything he had believed about the galaxy was crumbling around him. The Empire, which had seemed all-powerful just hours ago, was being destroyed by a species they had dismissed as primitive. How? He asked weakly. How did you do all this without us knowing? Chen sat down across from him. Because you never really looked at us, Commander. You saw what you expected to see. A primitive species that posed no threat. You never bothered to look deeper. She gestured to the screens showing human victories across the galaxy. We've been planning this for decades. Every human who worked on an Imperial world, every human trader who visited Imperial stations, every human diplomat who attended Imperial meetings, they were all gathering information for us. Your entire species were spies? Vixnal asked, in amazement. Our entire species were survivors, Chen corrected. We knew that eventually the Empire would decide we were a threat or a resource to be taken. So we prepared for that day. An officer approached Chen. Captain, we're receiving surrender requests from Imperial forces across the galaxy. Most of them are not even trying to fight. Expected? Chen replied. When you lose the element of surprise and face superior technology, smart commanders know when to give up. She turned back to Zektar. Your empire conquered other species by being stronger than them. But you made a mistake with humanity. You gave us time to become stronger than you. On the main screen, they could see a new image, the massive human ship that Admiral Torres commanded. It was larger than anything the Empire had ever built, bristling with weapons that could destroy entire fleets. The TDSF Terra Invicta, Chen said proudly. Our largest supercarrier, Admiral Torres will be broadcasting to the entire galaxy from that ship, explaining the new order. Zektar looked at the massive ship and felt completely defeated. Everything the Empire had worked to build over thousands of years was being destroyed in a single day. What happens to us? He asked quietly. Chen's expression softened slightly. That depends on you, Commander. The Empire is gone. But the people who served it don't have to die. You can choose to join the new galaxy we're building, or you can be returned to your homeworld to live in peace. She stood up and looked out at the stars. The age of conquest is over. The age of cooperation begins today. Admiral Marcus Torres stood on the command bridge of the TDSF Terra Invicta, looking out at the stars through the massive viewing window. The supercarrier was so large that it had its own weather system inside, with clouds forming near the ceiling of the main hangar bays. It was more than just a ship. It was a mobile city, home to 50,000 humans and the most advanced technology their civilization had ever created. Behind him, officers worked at control stations that managed battles happening across the entire galaxy. Reports were coming in every few minutes, and every report brought good news. "Admiral," called out Commander Lisa Park, his second in command. "All major Imperial shipyards have been captured or destroyed. Their ability to build new warships has been eliminated." "Excellent. What about their command structure?" "Most Imperial governors have surrendered. Those who haven't are cut off from their fleets and pose no significant threat." Torres nodded. Everything was going according to plan. Operation Homecoming had been in development for 20 years, and every detail had been carefully worked out. "Sir," another officer reported, "we're receiving communication requests from over 300 worlds. Most are requesting to join the Terran Commonwealth immediately." This was expected. Many species had been forced to join the Empire against their will. Now that the Empire was defeated, they wanted to ally themselves with the winners as quickly as possible. "Put me on. Galaxy-wide broadcast," Torres ordered. "It's time to address our new neighbors." The communication officer nodded. "You're broadcasting to every inhabited system in the galaxy, sir." Torres stood straight and began to speak. His words would be heard on thousands of worlds by billions of intelligent beings. "People of the galaxy, I am Admiral Marcus Torres, of the Terran Commonwealth. 6 hours ago, the forces of the Galactic Shattered Empire attacked our homeworld, intending to destroy human civilization. They have failed." He paused, letting those words sink in across the galaxy. The Empire believed humans were a primitive species, barely capable of space travel. They were wrong. We have been traveling the stars for over 2 centuries, building our strength and preparing for this day. On worlds across the galaxy, people gathered around communication devices to hear what this human had to say. Many had never heard of humans before today. Others had heard of them but dismissed them as unimportant. The age of the Galactic shattered. Empire is over. Their fleets have been defeated, their bases captured, their ability to wage war destroyed. But this is not a conquest. This is a liberation. Torres gestured to the stars visible through the window. For too long, the Empire ruled through fear and force. Species were conquered, enslaved, or destroyed if they did not submit. Entire civilizations were wiped out because they dared to resist. The camera showing his broadcast zoomed out, revealing the massive size of the Terra Invicta. Beings across the galaxy could see that this was not just one human speaking. This was the representative of a civilization that had built something larger than anything the Empire ever created. The Terran Commonwealth offers a different path. We believe that intelligent species should work together as equals, not as masters and slaves. We believe in cooperation, not conquest. We believe in protecting the weak, not destroying them. Reports continued to come in while Torres spoke. Imperial governors were surrendering on worlds throughout the galaxy. Some were even being arrested by their own people who had been waiting for a chance to throw off imperial rule. To every species in the galaxy, we offer 3 choices, Torres continued. First, you may join the Terran Commonwealth as equal members. You will keep your independence, your culture, and your government, but you will be protected by our fleets and have access to our technology and trade networks. This was the choice most species were expected to make. The Commonwealth offered protection and prosperity without the oppression that had characterized the Empire. Second, you may remain completely independent. We will not force anyone to join us, but know that if you are threatened by aggressors, the Commonwealth will defend you. This option was for species that wanted to be left alone. The humans would respect that choice, unlike the Empire, which had forced everyone to submit. Third, if you choose to follow the Empire's path of conquest and oppression, if you choose to threaten or attack other species, you will face the full might of the Commonwealth Fleet. Torres's voice became harder as he spoke these words. The humans would not allow another empire to rise and terrorize the galaxy. We have spent decades preparing for this moment. Our technology is superior to anything the Empire possessed. Our fleets are larger and more advanced. Our resolve is absolute. Anyone who chooses the path of aggression will be stopped. Behind Torres, the displays showed the positions of human fleets throughout the galaxy. There were ships near every major world, every important trade route, every strategic location. The humans had planned this takeover down to the smallest detail. To the former leaders of the Empire, we offer amnesty to those who surrender peacefully and cooperation in building a better galaxy. To those who choose to resist, we offer one warning. Your empire fell in a single day. Do not test our patience. The broadcast continued for another 10 minutes, with Torres explaining how the transition would work, what the Commonwealth stood for, and what people could expect in the days ahead. When it ended, the galaxy had changed forever. Admiral, Commander Park reported, we're receiving responses from across the galaxy. Over 800 worlds have requested to join the Commonwealth immediately. Another 300 want to discuss terms. Only 12 have refused to respond. And the Imperial loyalists? Most have surrendered. There are a few holdout fleets, but they're isolated and outnumbered. It's only a matter of time. Torres nodded. He had expected this. When faced with overwhelming force and no hope of victory, most rational commanders would choose surrender over destruction. Sir, another officer called out, Earth Command is Reporting successful completion of the planetary relocation, Earth is now safely hidden in the sanctuary system, behind our most advanced defensive networks. This was perhaps the most impressive achievement of all. Somehow the humans had developed technology that could move entire planets. Earth itself had been relocated to a hidden system where no enemy could ever find it. Excellent. Begin phase 2 of the operation. Phase 2 was the rebuilding phase. Now that the Empire was defeated, the real work began. The humans would have to help dozens of species rebuild their governments, restore damaged worlds, and create new trade networks. "Admiral," Commander Park said quietly, "there's something else. We're receiving reports that several species are calling this the Day of Human Ascension. Some are already building monuments to commemorate our victory." Torres smiled slightly. "Let them. But make sure they understand. We didn't do this to become new masters. We did this to make sure there would be no more masters." He turned to look out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, on thousands of worlds, beings were going to sleep knowing they were free for the first time in generations. Children would grow up without fearing conquest. Scientists could pursue knowledge without worrying about their discoveries being used for war. "Status report on the remaining Imperial forces?" Torres asked. "The last holdout fleet surrendered 20 minutes ago, sir. The Empire no longer exists as a military force." Torres felt a weight lift from his shoulders. For over 200 years, humanity had lived with the knowledge that eventually they would have to face the Empire. They had built their entire civilization around that moment, sacrificing comfort and ease in order to be ready for war. Now the war was over, and they had won. "Admiral," another officer reported, "President Martinez is requesting a private communication from Earth." Torres nodded. The President of the Terran Commonwealth would want a full report on the operation's success. But as he walked toward his private communication chamber, Torres allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The galaxy was free. The age of empires built on conquest was over. And humanity, the species that the galaxy had dismissed as primitive, had become the guardians of peace among the stars. The galactic shattered empire was dead. In its place, something better would be built. Something that valued cooperation over conquest, protection over predation, and peace over power. The humans had kept their promise to themselves and to the galaxy. They had prepared for this day, and when the moment came, they had not hesitated. The galaxy would never be the same.